Welcome to the National Women's Fitness Academy podcast. We're here to talk about women's health, female hormones, body image, and all things health and fitness.
Hello, girls, and welcome back to another episode of the Women's Fitness Academies podcast. I'm your host, Siggy, one of the WFA's educators and a body confidence expert. Today, I have the lovely Liv Hodge with me. If you guys are not familiar with Liv, make sure that you go onto her Instagram and follow her because she is an elite businesswoman and a strategist who's generated over 6 mil in client revenue organically in the last 12 months. And if you're here to make bank, but also to make an impact in your business, I highly suggest to get in touch with her or just start following her stuff because it's very inspiring. Liv, I want us to start off by the conversation we literally had before recording this. Why did you get into this business?
Well, my journey actually started like accidentally. I was an accidental CEO, which is always fun. I never planned on working for myself, but I hated working for others. So I guess that's, a baseline of it. Now, like I was saying before, everyone says that they want to help more people. At the end of the day, we're all here to make money. That's what life is for. Like you make money, you enjoy life and you do whatever you please. So at the start, it was like I was quite happy just helping people do whatever on the side. And then now I make people millions of dollars by organically growing them, which is amazing. For me, it's a big pat on the back. So I just like seeing other people happy and make money whilst I do it.
Hell yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
And you're making an impact as well.
Yeah, well, everyone that helps other people, I feel like I'm helping them too. So I'm like, well, I helped your clients too because I've got your clients to you. So it's like a domino effect, which is an amazing feeling for me.
100%. When you first started the business, as you said, like it was accidental because you realized that you just didn't want to work for other people. What did that look like? Did you already have that vision that you're like, cool, I'm going to go into social media and business, or was it something completely different?
So I was working in marketing at the time for plastic surgeons. And then one of my friends at the time, Emily King, asked me for help with her social media while she was competing. And I was like, yeah, okay. So I was just doing it a bit on the side. And funny enough, I had clients before I had a business name. Like I was just like, I'll just do it on the side. I'll just do extra money. And then it took me probably not even 6 months and I had enough clients and I like was making double what I was making at work. It started off very different. It was very social media focused, social media heavy, because that is, I guess, what my forte was at the time. And then as I built people's businesses with their socials, with optimizing their processes and everything like that, I stepped into that business space. I was very much mindful of when I stepped into the business space because I hate when people do business advice but have never done businesses. So I was like, I will not give business advice until I've grown, 10, 15 businesses, which I'm bypassed it now. But yeah, it just kind of all, I guess, grew and I grew into different places and I just progressed as I went along.
You made such a good point right there about people giving out business advice without actually having a successful generated business. And success comes in various ways. We can go down that rabbit hole. I also want you to emphasize a little bit more to our listeners that if you've only been in the business, quote unquote, for like, I don't know, 6 months, a year, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is from speaking with other business owners, you legitimately don't have the experience to help
Yeah.
someone else within business.
Yeah, honestly, I felt like I didn't have the experience until I had worked with like 10 businesses and like grown them successfully, not just like worked with them and they failed or worked with them on launches and they failed, like worked with 10 businesses and grew those 10 businesses past the point of where they wanted to go. And there was even a point where I would grow businesses to 7 figures and then I didn't know what the hell to do with them after that. I was kind of like, okay, well, I don't know what to do now. And then now I grow people from the 6 figures to the 7 figures really easily. So it's like, you grow with what you're doing, but you cannot be giving business advice if you've grown your one coaching brand to 6 figures. Like 6 figures these days isn't a lot of money. Like I know that sounds crazy, but it's not. Like 6 figures is 6 figures. Like what? Okay, you're making 100K a year, which is like under two grand a week. It's like a normal average 9 to 5 wage now. So when they're saying 6 figures, 6 figure months, a lot of the time I find that they've got no proof They can't be putting proof up. They don't have client proof. They don't have results. They just speak on it. And they prey on these vulnerable people that are coming into business and don't know what to do and are looking for help. And they prey on the emotional marketing tools and get the pain points in and then, yeah, rope them into paying them $10,000 a month for something that you could get off Google.
Mm. The
It's,
pain points. We've all been there. We've all done that.
yeah, it's
It,
a pain point. I hate pain point marketing. I absolutely hate it. I'm like, just value. Like, if you can market with your value, like you will win any day of the week. Like all I do is show value and show client results. And that's literally it. Like there's nothing else. There's no pain points. There's no like, are you feeling like this? Like it's just like, would you like this? Perfect. Here you go. This is what we do.
Let's talk about the pain points and like the value side of things, because I know a lot of our listeners are either coaches or wanting to be coaches. And you know what, like I've fallen into that trap in the past of, going, are you feeling lonely or are you sad or are you fat? Whatever the feeling is.
Yeah.
Some people, it does initiate a conversation with them, but again, it comes from like a really like low vibrational place. And you
Yeah.
mentioned that you prefer more of the value side of things. What does that look like in terms of like the social media aspect?
So I guess like if we put it into a coaching perspective, like fitness coaching perspective in that sort of industry, the problem that everyone runs into is the value prospecting posts do terrible. Like they perform absolutely terrible. So it's not the value that performs terrible. It's actually how you're delivering it. So the delivery of the value. If it's boring, people aren't going to engage with it. Like tell them something they don't know. Like if you're trying to educate them on something they would not know. Educate them on a fad thing that they probably are following. Don't just educate them on the same how to track your macros when you're out. Like, a million people post that every single day. It's not something new to them. When we're playing on emotions, what actually happens is, and this is why I say value is better. When you give value and you provide value to your audience and then your audience buys in, they're buying in on a state of trust. So they trust you wholeheartedly. They don't have an issue. They know what you're about. They know what you can do and they understand that you can do your job. When you are selling to an emotion, you've got them in an anxious state. What an anxious state does is it runs off two frequencies. Your anxious state and your excited state are the exact same regulators, like exact same. So when you're out on the weekend and your friends are all dancing with you and they're saying, let's do this again next weekend, and you're in a hype at the moment, you're like, hell yeah, like let's go out next weekend. And then Sunday comes and you're like, why the hell did I say I'm going to go out next weekend? But it's because you were in a state of excitement. So you agreed to something based off a feeling at the time. And then when all of those receptors and levels have come down, you're like, I don't want to do that. And it's the same when they're buying in on an emotion. If you're saying to them, are you feeling fat, lack of self-confidence in the gym, anxious? They're going to go, oh my God, I am. You've got them to that anxious point of being like, I do feel like that. I need your help. The day later, when they wake up and they eat something that fuels them and they go for a walk and they're like, I actually didn't really need the help. Like I've got a good routine. I just felt shit when I was reading that post. Like your leads start to be terrible because you've bought them in a bad way. And that's when you start have to inflicting, oh, well, I've got a 12-week minimum. And it's like, no, like qualify the client properly, give them the value, show them the value the best way you can, and let them buy in at their own frequency of being comfortable. And it makes it a lot easier in business too.
Such a good point. And you also mentioned regarding the value piece where sometimes people will bring out value, but it's boring as fuck and they don't sell into it. So what are some common mistakes that you've noticed and how can like people start shifting away from the boring content?
Stop copying others. That's probably like one of the biggest things. I see a lot of people these days in the fitness industry see someone else do it and be like, oh shit, I need to do that. Like, no, like just because they're doing it doesn't mean it's going to do well. Know your audience. That's probably like my key factor is like Instagram gives us amazing insights, right? Like we can have a look at who's following us, genders, ages, locations, like everything like that. Know your audience, put some polls into your stories and get to know your audience. What people actually screw up with the most these days is they don't know who they're posting to. So you've got your ideal avatar of who you want to work with, and then you've got your actual avatar who's sitting on your profile. A lot of people write their post to their ideal, and then that's not their audience that they've got at all. So that's when the engagement drops and everything like that. In order to make the post interesting, write it as if you're coaching someone. Write it as if you're coaching a client. Write it however you coach. Don't be someone else. Don't be by the book. Don't be, a scientist. Write it. How would you explain it if a client came to you and said, my scale weight's gone up today? You're going to go, okay, well, there's, this, and this, there's this, and this, and you write it so much more casually instead of giving the A's, the B's, the C's all the way to the Z's on why your scale weight's going up and I'm pretty much a doctor. Like, keep it simple, write it how you coach. Then when people come to you, you coach exactly the same. There's no gap, like literally no gap. The value needs to be provided in the way that you would educate and you would provide it, because that's what makes you you, especially as a coach.
I'm laughing at the back end here because I'm literally seeing like the younger version of myself, like 10 years ago when I started in the industry, trying to look like all sophisticated and professional and like spit out these fancy words, and no one understood shit aside from like the coaches who I was friends with. So they're like, yeah, you fucking know your shit, good on you. But I was just like not converting. Nothing.
Yeah,
It was like crickets. I'm like, what is going on here? And the exact point as you made, too often people will copy one another and regurgitate the information, but not saying it as you would normally speak to your coach, to your clients.
And I find as well now it's like a dick measuring contest with coaches. It's like,
fucking swinging.
Like shit, he used a 7-letter word, I'm using a 10-letter word. Like, just say glute. Like we don't need to use like the long-winded hyphenated word for glute. Like, it's your glute. Like, it's your glute, it's your booty, who cares? Like, you're talking to Gen Pop. And I think that's the big thing is like, you can dick measure all you want to your friends and to other coaches, but they are not buying your services. Like, if you're trying to sell to, and this is when, knowing who you're trying to sell to is, if you're trying to sell to beginners and you're using big fat words, you're going to scare them off. It's like, they're going to be like, I have no clue what she's talking about. I already feel lack of self-confidence. I already feel like I don't know what I'm doing in the gym and I can't even read her fucking caption. Like, I'm not going to her, and then there could be someone who's like, here's how to lose weight. Step 1, be in a deficit. Step 2, do some steps. Step 3, go to the gym. And they're going to be like, easy, I'm in. Like, that sounds easy, So know the audience that you're writing to. If you're wanting to write to your coach friends, send them a group chat and dick measure in the group chat. But if you're wanting to promote properly, promote to who you're trying to promote to. Makes so much sense.
100%. I totally agree with that. It's something that a lot of coaches need to start putting into practice around this and making sure, like, why is their sales not converting? Are you trying to impress other people aside from, your actual clientele?
Yeah. And I think that a lot of the things that I say to clients too, mute coaches. Anyone that is irrelevant and not going to buy your service, mute them, because they have such an impact on you and you don't even realize. Like, you will automatically be scrolling and reading. Say you read 3 coaches' posts in a row and they're all dick measuring. Like, you can guarantee your next post is going to be like Einstein. Like, it is going to be through the roof with big words, and you're going to have bloody doctors at the bottom and everything, because you can't get out of the mindset that you're not speaking to them. You're speaking to your audience. Something I always recommend doing too is, like, if you're struggling with posts, use your clients. Like, you do a check-in with your clients weekly. Take a problem away from the check-ins, write about it. You've literally just solved the problem with your clients. So you should have something written up already somewhere. Turn it into a post. Like, there's no need to go read someone else's, that's a good idea, I'm going to do exactly the same. Use your data. Anything that's helping your clients is probably going to help your ideal client.
100%. I completely agree with that. And that's the common mistake so many coaches make. They come over and they're like, I don't know what to post. I'm like, what did you chat with your client? What were they struggling with? Oh, X, Y, and Z. It's like, cool, talk about that. Oh, but people don't want to hear about it. It's just like, this is your client. People are struggling with this. They may not tell you, but you'd be very surprised.
Yeah, and a lot of it's not spoken about. I think that's probably the biggest problem is a lot of coaches try to assume what people want to know, but that comes from lack of knowing your audience. Like, if you keep data on every single person that inquires with you and signs up with you and leaves you, you will know quite quickly where the gaps are and what you need to be educating on, what you can use for funnels and everything like that. It's just data. Like, data does not lie to you at all. And if you've got it, you can use it. If you don't have it, you can't use it.
Let's talk about data, because I remember the first few years of coaching, I wasn't fucking tracking anything. To be honest, I was literally throwing spaghetti at the wall, hoping for the absolute best. And like you mentioned, we know data is king. It's the same with like tracking macros. If you're dieting, it's just like, how do you know if you're eating at a deficit? Like, are you just winging it? Like, what's happening? So with data and social activity on, social media, what are some things that you look at to track and know what to do better the next week?
So insights on Instagram are annoying Just an FYI. Everyone gets caught up in them, but if you're not looking at them like comparing apples to apples, you're going to feel really deflated really quick. So, for example, if you're having a look at the last 7 days and the 7 days prior to that, you posted, say, 4 reels, and then these 7 days you just posted 2 posts, everything is going to be in the red. No matter how hard you work, no matter how much engagement you put up, no matter how many stories you put up, everything is going to be in the red because you're comparing the reach of 2 posts to 4 reels. So that's how those numbers start to work. When you're having a look at things, I always go off your engagement and your reach. So when you click onto your reach, you can have a look at the follower versus non-follower. A really good quick hack is if your reach is low on either end, that's who you need to engage with. So if you've got more non-follower reach than follower, you need to be engaging with who follows you so that they start to see your posts, and then vice versa. So that's a nice hack, if you're trying to work out who you need to be engaging with and how to be seen more. Another thing is follows and unfollows. It's not a major, but it is a good telltale sign. So if you're getting a lot of unfollows from certain posts, either your audience is shifting or your posts are terrible. That's the easy way to do it. And then another thing is looking at your story views. So if your story views are up and down all the time, it's because you've either got too many stories up, not enough engaging stories, and then when you're not getting enough engagement, it just stops showing you. So some people have 40 stories up a day. If you don't get high engagement through all of them, your performance is going to be ridiculous, terrible.
I must be honest, I get so much anxiety when someone has 40 stories up. I'm like, what was so important throughout your day that you had to share 40 stories? I guess when we do Q&As, sometimes you would post, I don't know, 10 or 15, but max it out. You don't need 40.
Do you know, I give everyone a limit on mine because if not, they just go rogue. And I'm like, no, we're not going rogue today. Some of my clients can do really good rogue stories. They've just got the personality and they can kill it, and people want to see it because they just share shit, really. But if you're doing 40 stories of day on the plate, here's my client, here's my client, here's my client, girl, we've tapped out. I've got so many people on mute in the industry, and it's crazy because I'm in the industry and you'd think I'd watch it. I don't want to see it. I know that you do your steps every morning. I know you get your coffee every single morning. I know that you walk your dog. I know that you brush your hair and you put your sports bra on with your back facing the camera, and then you tag the discount code. I know it all. It's all exactly the same every single day, So it's change it up, change it up, have an outline. And that's why when we do socials coaching with Envy, we have outlines Monday, you're talking about this, you're doing a story on this, and then you're putting this, because I find that people do it properly when they know what they're doing. It's when they wake up in the morning and they go, I've got no idea what I'm posting my stories today. I'm just going to saturate it with my avo on toast, then with my bagel, and it's just back to back, give us something to see and something to engage with too.
When we're talking about looking at the engagement side of things with the stories, like you said, sometimes we just get fed up, and maybe that's because we're so in it and we see it. We don't exactly know if, the Gen Pop is thinking about that. But again, correct me if I'm wrong, you've done it for longer. Do people have less engagement in what other coaches are doing just because it's so repetitive?
Yeah. And even now, a lot of coaches use the same templates for stuff. So on their stories, they've all got similar templates. You're losing engagement. Even if someone clicks onto yours and you've got a similar story to someone else, you're gone. It's so hard to actually stay afloat. But you need to be able to mix it up. There needs to be, your story is you, right? So you providing content in a short form, and it needs to be something that's quick and it's on. It shouldn't be an explanation that goes over 10 stories and you have to go, sorry, it cut me off. Oh, sorry, it cut me off again. Just spit the words out, get them in and get them quick. A lot of people watch stories with no sound on. So if you don't have captions and they go for more than 2 slides, you've probably lost the person pretty quick.
What's with people not having the audio on?
I feel like I did it for ages. I don't know what it is. My phone's always on do not disturb though.
Yeah.
I did it for ages. I feel like it's because it depends where I am. If I'm sitting somewhere waiting for food or something like that, I don't want the sound on. A lot of people watch it on public transport when they're waiting at the doctor's, and they're tapping through. And that's something that you've got to remember is I think it came out last year. It was 73% of people watch stories on mute. And I'm wow, all of these people that put up these talking stories with no captions, I'm you just lost 73% of your audience because we're just We look, and if there's no captions, I'm like, next. It's the same with a reel though. If you've got no sound on your reel and you've got no captions and you're talking, they'll just next you.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And it's evolving as we go as well, because in regards to content, we're wanting it to be direct and snappy because otherwise you just,
Yeah.
disengage.
Yeah. It needs to be like, you could do a podcast like this that goes for, 30, 45 minutes, but to deliver it in different feeds and different places, they all need to be optimized differently. So even if you put it onto Instagram, it needs to be no more than 30 to 60 seconds. If it's going onto TikTok, it probably needs to be even shorter. But then on YouTube, you could put the whole thing on and someone would probably watch it. But on Spotify, you could probably cut it up too. So it's like, there's so many different variances of how you should be putting the content out. And I think that's where people get confused. Stories is quick, reels are quick, posts shouldn't be how long written posts these days. No one really pays attention to it. There's a lot to do with what kind of post versus what kind of caption you're doing, which helps as well.
Let's talk about the post because again, like you mentioned, it's very different if you're doing a reel or a written post. And you mentioned with the longer captions, people no longer are engaged with that. So like a carousel's in, or we're just keeping it very short?
It depends on what type of post you're putting up, right? So, for example, for all the fitness girlies out there who have shoot photos, short caption. Like your shoot photo is going to do well whether you write a big long caption or not. Like, don't waste your long caption on this shoot photo because people are going to engage with you. Like, that's just how it is. So I always say, like, you counteract, right? So if the post itself is going to do lower engagement, counteract it with your caption, and then vice versa. Carousels are in for two reasons. People feel like they can deliver their long caption in a carousel and people will swipe to it. The problem you've got is if your carousel is written shit, just like what your caption is going to be like, it's going to underperform too. So sometimes it's not the type of post, it's your content. And I think that's what a lot of people run into. They'll go, oh, I don't like doing swipes because they don't work for me. And I'm like, no, it's your content. Like, it's what you're writing in the swipe. It's not the swipe itself, because I have some swipes that, might get 600 saves. Like, it's not the swipe, it's the content. And they're, oh, okay. And it's the same with posts. They'll be like, I write really long captions, no one reads them because they're crap. Like, you really, hypothetically, anything can do well as long as it's good. And it's good and it's right to the right audience. So there comes a point where everyone needs to stop blaming the type of posts and start looking at their content. And the way to get them to perform is knowing who you're putting it out to. So looking at those insights and looking at who follows me, who sees my posts, what would they want to see, and how am I writing it?
The best one is when people blame the algorithm. And I'm like, nah, it's your content that sucks. And you know what? I'm speaking about this from experience. For a while, I was like putting, content out there and I'm like, why am I not hearing anything? Why there's crickets? And then I really did like a massive audit and I was just like, yeah, I'm fucking boring. I need to change this shit up.
Do you know what it is as well? Is like a lot of them, I find in, say, the competing space, for example, a lot of them have so many men followers. It's not by choice. It's just we put shoot photos up, people follow, whatever. Men don't care about your low-carb breakfast that you had in the morning. Like, unfortunately not. So you need to be engaging. You need to get the right audience to your page. And then another thing is I've had people that come to me and they post like 4 or 5 times a day. And I'm like, if the one post doesn't do well, the other 4 and 5 aren't going to do well either. Fix the problem at the start. So relook at the content, relook at how you're putting the content up, and then work it out. There's a few things now, like I think people blame the algorithm in regards to not being seen, being shadow banned, all that sort of stuff. But the new updates have like AI bots that clarify whether you've got too much skin showing, so your account can get blocked. There's a part in your settings where it can, it'll tell you if your account's being shown or not. That's a big problem recently because bikini photos in little shorts and a crop, too much skin. And all you have to do is literally click dispute, and they usually let you go with it. Unless you're doing a check-in photo with your glutes to the back, then sometimes it won't. But that's a new thing. And then I remember when that first came out, no one knew about it, but everyone was like, the algorithm screwed me over. And I'm like, no, girl, you're blocked. Your page is blocked. The way the algorithm works, in case anyone actually doesn't know, it's not called an algorithm for one. That's just a slogan that everyone puts on it. It's literally the dynamic of the coding in the back of Instagram. So Instagram is behavior analysis. They analyze your behavior, so they show you more of what you want to see. What you engage with is what you see. Who you message is what you see. Whose stories you engage with are what you see the most. And then all the extras are the high engage. So, for example, if you're seeing really big people in the industry and their stories are coming up first because they've got high engagement on the story, so it's ranked as good quality, it gets put to the front. If you're posting a post up and it's a terrible post and you only get 3 likes, it's not going to go any further than that first bar of people that's seen it. So the first barrier of people that it gets sent to, they need to engage. So you need to be engaging with them so that they engage with you. Then that second barrier, it's the same. They need to engage for it to keep getting pushed and pushed and pushed. Wherever it stops is where your reach stops. So the more you can do is better because you're going to be seen.
And speaking of like doing more, sometimes you also mention how like you've had clients who would post like 4 or 5 times a day, and then they're like, what the fuck, what's happening? It's not working. I find sometimes that people have this tendency of pushing out way too much information, similar to the stories, like having 40 in a row, thinking it's going to help, but you're not realizing that if you're not giving out enough value, of course it's not going to work.
Yeah, and people get sick of seeing you. Like people, like honestly, I don't know. When people do this, I'm kind of like, would you want to sit through someone's 50 stories? Like you wouldn't. Like you're going to tap through and you're going to be like, oh God, this bitch again. Like see you, like gone. Get the point across quickly and then get off your stories. Like get off. And with posts, post, leave it, engage. Like your focus point with anything should be quality. And then it should be engagement. Like that's my 2 major things of everyone is like, make sure it's good quality, make sure it goes out. And it's really hard to have conversations with people who actually are genuinely really, really trying. And I'm like, I really need you to take better photos. Like, I really need, like, that's how critiqued it is because we're on an app that is an aesthetic app. It's visual. We are looking at it. I'm looking at a photo, I'm looking at a video, I'm going, yep, I like that. No, I don't like that. Like that's what's happening. It's a visual app. If you're putting up blurry pics, no one's going to engage. So there becomes a point where you have to step back and you have to go, if it takes me more to do better quality stuff, that's what happens. And every person that comes to me, I start them as low as I can on posts because I want the most minimal amount of work with the most maximum return on it. So if I can get you posting 3 times a week and still growing and still getting clients, amazing. That's what we're doing. Like one of my best girls only posts 4 times a week and she has like leads coming in left, right and center. And we don't do any paid advertising. And it's like, that's what we work for is quality, consistency, and the leads coming in automatically.
And the quality comes down, obviously, not just for the photos themselves, but the quality in the words and the captions that you're putting up.
Yeah, I find coaches who understand their audience write a lot better. I find when people coming into the industry, you can see they haven't found their voice yet, which is understandable. A lot of like imposter syndrome and stuff comes in the way, and I totally get that because some days I wake up and I'm like, who the hell am I? But you've got to remember who you are as a coach. And that's what I bring it back to them like all the time. Like, how would you coach? How would you coach a client through the issue? Write it down. It can be casual. It doesn't have to be structured.
100%. You mentioned how sometimes you would have the imposter, which is obviously completely normal as a human behavior. I would also love to know, and I'm sure our listeners would love to know, what are some of the challenges that you have faced in building your successful businesses?
Oh, challenges. Like, I don't feel like I had a lot of challenges when I ran through the business. And I feel like that's because I kind of just grinded through them, which is probably not a good thing. Like I wouldn't recommend. But something that happened for me is like when I first came into the industry, social media management was a thing, but social media coaching wasn't. And I remember being like, I don't want to do social media management. I hated it. And that's how I started business. So I kind of had to create social media coaching off the back end of what fitness coaches do. So that's what I did. I like blueprinted it and I was like, I'm going to run it exactly the same as how a coach does for like health and fitness, because that's my ideal audience. They know how it works. Funny enough, no one else knows how it works. And other businesses come to us, like we have to like really ABC it because I'm like, how don't you know that you need to do an online check-in? Like, but it's normal to us. So I remember when I built that out, in the first year, there was no one doing it. In the second year, I remember I had a few people who'd like signed on as clients and then copied my business like from back to front. And for me, it was it was one of those moments where people go, oh, but if they copy, it's like a really big compliment. I'm like, no, like I worked really hard for this. Like I worked really, really hard for this. And that's why I'm annoyed, because I've grinded, I've put my heart and soul into it, my brain into it, and I've worked my ass off. And now someone's coming in to just copy and paste it. Like I don't like it. So that was one of my big run-ins when it came into social media. And then one of my other challenges is when I came into the business space a lot more, was now business coaching is a trend. So I find that so many people that come to me have been fucked over by business coaches. They've been charged $20,000 a month, they've made no results. They've been charged $10,000 a month, they've been put on group coaching. And I feel like I'm almost getting penalized because of what they've done. And I hate it. Like, I'm not like that. It's like, and I get to the point now where I'm like, I'm not like that. Like, I won't lock you in. You can do whatever you want. Like, you come, you go. Like, I really don't mind, because I get it and I understand it, but I'm like, shit, like it's a lot to battle with when you've got an industry that's getting pulled under at the same time as whilst you're coming up. And it's the same with the health and fitness industry. You've got coaches that coach wrong, and then people don't want to sign up to another coach because they've been screwed over by the last coach, or they didn't get enough support. And it's more so like the challenges aren't in the business. The challenges are on the outer. It's the reputation that we get in the industries, which is hard for me because I don't have a bad reputation, and reputation is absolutely everything. So when there's random people saying they're a business coach because, they've got one client in the door, then it makes it really, really hard on us who actually do well and know what we're talking about.
Mm. It's differentiating you from those to what you're doing now as well. And it's so interesting that you've opened the conversation around people being burnt by business owners and then coming to you for help, but then still having sort of not the triggers, the doubts in their head of wanting to invest again, because they're like, I don't know what the fuck's going to happen. But it's just like, well, if you don't take the risk, how are you going to know?
Yeah, and because I don't sell, like I'm not a seller. I don't sell in any of my companies. I've never had to sell, because like what I was saying before, we do a lot of value and that's it. I'm like, you either trust us or you don't, and that's up to you. I'm not here to convince anyone that I'm good at what I do, because I feel like if I have to do that, you're uncomfortable. If someone has to convince me to buy something, I feel super uncomfortable. So I'm like, oh, I'm here, come to me whenever you like it's all good. But when I've had people in tears on the phone to me, and I'm like, oh shit. And like, I'm a big empath. So like, that's a struggle for me, because I feel like I'm like, I borderline want to do it for free because I feel bad because I've just wasted 20 grand on someone else who I don't know. But it is really, really hard. And it's unfair too, because I'm like, I do well, and I know I do well, and I do good at business. And a lot of the time I'm fixing people's problems. Like I'm fixing what other people have done to people in order for them to trust the process again. And that sucks, because when people want to start a business, they will almost do anything to start that business. And you've got people preying on them, and you've got people using their life savings, and you've got people investing absolutely everything and listening to everything they're saying and getting no results. And then it's getting put back on them, where I'm very, very, very different. Like if we're not getting results, I'm changing the game plan. Like there's no floor plan to like, this is what we're doing in week one. It's very much like, where are you at? Where do we need to be? This is what we need to be doing. It's not working this week. We're going to swap it. Here you go. Like I'm very, very hands-on. It's always, that didn't work yesterday. Let's do this today. Because if I can't bring solutions, we are always going to have problems. And when you've always got problems, you've got an anxious client. So it's like, it's hard because I'm fighting in a world where they've just ruined the name of like business coaches, even social media people. They've ruined the name too. They just all tell you to boost ads. And I'm like, oh, please learn, like, please. And they all see it as quick money. Like that's the big thing now. It's like they see it as, oh, it's quick money. Like so many people come to me and go, I want to be a business coach. And I'm like, okay, have you built a business? No, I just think it's interesting. And I'm like, cool, that's not going to happen. Like it's the same with fitness coaches though. You've got so many who are online fitness coaches but not certified. And it's because none of them no one asks them for certifications. Like no one says, oh, can I see your certs when they're signing up to them? So you don't know whether you've got a nutritionist, you don't know whether you've got a cert 2, cert 3, cert 4. Like some of these people have never even seen a gym. They're just doing it because they can.
Oh my God, I could literally go on about this conversation forever, because it's such a gray area sometimes when people are becoming coaches where they're not actually certified, and the amount of shit they get away with like really fucking baffles me.
It's crazy, but all it takes is for them to fuck up one client. like one client who will take it further, and that's it. And I think a big thing in business now is, and I'm quite big on this now because I built myself like 4 companies, right? So I never used to be the one for tit for tat. So if someone said something, I'd just leave it. But now I'm like the one for the defamation letters because I'm like, no, no, no. Like I have built like multi-million-dollar companies. Like you are not going to run your mouth and lie about me somewhere and I don't even know you. You know, so like it's the easiest way to deal with it is like, don't ruin my reputation when you don't know who I am. And I remember one time I had a client come to me who was a coach and she said, yeah, I was getting coached by this woman for like 3 years. And then this whole thing came out because she'd screwed a woman's thyroid up or something like that. She'd given her something. So she got sued and she wasn't even a coach. She had no certs and she'd never worked in a gym. And I was like, where did you find her? Like, where did you find her? But she was actually, what had happened was she was an influencer and then she was sponsored by, you know, activewear brands and stuff like this. And she just started putting out programs. So people are instantly like, I want to look like that. A lot of it's genetics, but like, I want to look like that. And then now it's the same thing. A lot of fitness coaches are having to build the trust on audiences that have been screwed over, who've been, you know, promised the world and given nothing, who've had no support, who've had coaches that have, you know, treat them like shit. We're all fixing other people's problems and that's what makes it hard.
And the same goes for business coaches as well.
Yeah. And people are so like now I get the few odd questions like, oh, did you go to uni? And I'm like, yeah, but I dropped out because like I didn't need to finish uni. Like uni didn't teach me how to build businesses. Yeah. Like I got my role that I needed from uni in my first year of uni. I got the job that I wanted to get. Like, why would I continue with uni? And since then, like I say this to everyone that comes to me and wants to do social media or anything like that, I'm like, learn on the job because the books don't teach you shit. It's not a science-based role where fitness is science. Yeah. Like a deficit, a maintenance, and a surplus, and you're dealing with a body, like you're dealing with a human. I'm dealing with analytics that change every day. Like I'm dealing with trends. I'm dealing with someone sitting in the US being like, we're going to change the coding today and we're going to do this. Like that's what I'm dealing with. There's no book to it. You just got to learn it and you've got to learn it on the job consistently. So you've got to learn and pick your paths, you know, like when they're all excelling now, like the post and prenatal space and everything, I say to nearly every female coach under me, I'm like, get more qualifications. Like learn more. The more you learn, the more your value becomes huge. Like you are now different to your average person coming out of school and doing a cert 2 and cert 3. You're now pre and postnatal. You're now, you know, specializing this. Like the education never stops.
Yeah, it literally does. And it's the same with social media. Like the trends, they're constantly changing. They've changed over the last year, 5 years, and you know, you see it.
Yeah. Well, it used to be by followers, everyone like and comment on my photo. And then now they've clicked onto that. So it's, you know, and now you've got TikTok and TikTok comes into play. So there's so many things that everyone can have their finger in the pie, but it's doing it properly, which is, I guess, everyone's issue.
Would you say, to be honest, like I don't really dabble that much into TikTok, but would you say it's kind of similar to social, to Instagram, or is it completely different?
Like how it works is completely different. Audience space is quite similar, to be fair. I actually find the audience space on TikTok is a wider range. Like my mum sits on TikTok, which is wild because like she would not know how to use Instagram. And I almost regret getting her on TikTok because every day I log in and there's like 95 videos from her and I'm like, woman. TikTok's a lot more like lighthearted. Like no one really cares on there. It's just like, you know, but there's a lot of hate. Like a lot of hate. And I feel like it's because you can be getting shown a video from someone in the US and you don't know them. Where on Instagram, you kind of see your net, you know, like you see who you're around, who you engage with. So I don't enjoy TikTok. I enjoy watching it. Whenever I need to not be on Instagram, which is quite often, I will go on TikTok. One, because I don't get, like, people don't message me on there and ask me questions. And two, it's so lighthearted. Like, my feed is so cool on TikTok because it's behavior-wise. So it's just hard to control. Like, if you want to do well, you've got to be posting like 2 to 3 times a day minimum, which is a lot. Like, it's a lot if you don't have content.
Yeah, and that's a completely different game to social media, to Instagram, because as you said, like before, you don't want to be wanting to post 4 to 5 times a day because people will fucking get over your shit, where TikTok is completely different.
Yeah, in TikTok you can like you can post one video and get 1 view, and then you can post another video and get 1.1 million. You did nothing different. It could honestly be the same video. It's just like, and I actually like, I've tried to study it and look into it a bit and look at like the analytics side of it. And we've done profile trials where we trial the videos and stuff because I trial everything before I implement it anywhere. So I will try it on a set of like 3 or 4 different accounts to see, okay, that actually brings us back consistent, engagement, consistent flow or whatever. TikTok, you can't trash it. Like it's honestly like unco. Like it's like the baby brother that's just come out and gone rogue because there's like no control on it. But it's a great, great app. I just think it's terrible for like lead gen. Your quality of leads is terrible. It's good for personality and relatability, like real lighthearted. Do day in the life vlogs. Do like, come with me for a run. Like they're the cool videos that people actually really like on there. And unboxing. Everyone likes unboxing.
So weird. I find that shit so fucking boring.
Do you know what? I get sucked into them and then I end up buying the thing. Like, it's a problem of mine.
I don't have that problem yet. I don't know. Maybe one day it will happen, but I don't know. I guess I'm more on the other side, more of the educational. I'm like, give me value. Where if I see
Yeah.
someone unboxing or the SMR, the nails,
Oh,
I'm just,
I can't do that. I can't do that because it like borderline like it just no, I can't do it. The noise of it,
yeah.
it sends me over the edge. I'm like overstimulated to the max. But I find I use Instagram for value. So everyone I've got on Instagram is like providing me value. So when I get to the end of a day, like I might have done like 12 to 13 calls on a day of back-to-back clients. And by the end of the day, the last thing I want to look at is value. Like
Mhm.
my head is about to explode.
Fair.
Yeah.
You just want to switch it off.
Yeah. Well, I see my baby, which is great, and she tends to switch it off pretty quick. But yeah, when she goes to bed, if I want to watch something lighthearted, like the last place I'm going is Instagram, and it's usually because it's full of fitness industry stuff. So I'm like, I just like my life and go
Yeah.
on TikTok. Yeah.
Give me some stupid shit. Give me unpacking boxes. What can I buy next?
Yes, it's a Stanley Cups. It's always a Stanley Cup. They make like everything look good. I'm like, that looks great.
They're
We get
such a trend right now. They are. Liv, I want us to end today's conversation with what are your predictions for this year on social media and business?
that is so hard.
I
Like
know.
it's
You're welcome.
actually so hard. So business wise, everyone will stop calling challenges challenges.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's like a thing at the moment. Is no one wants to promote a challenge, so everything's going to get qualified as a program, which is fine. I feel like also business wise, a lot of people will bring coaches under them. That's a thing as well. I find like a lot of people go through the same phases as each other, and it's because it's trend set, right? One person launches that they've got a coach, and then like the next week, everyone is like to me, how do I get a coach on me? And I'm like, you don't need one. Like, chill, like you've got 15 clients. We don't need to get another coach. Like, let's just work on yours. So yeah, I would say challenges not being called challenges will be a big thing. I think the fitness side of things is going to cross over with the mindset side of things a lot more than what it did last year. You could kind of see it going into that phase, but this year it'll be a lot more. So you'll see a lot more of those swipe through graphics with the really big heading on the front and the boss bitch kind of photo shoots with the suit jacket, but with the activewear underneath. Like that's the coming trend this year. And then social wise, that's hard because it changes all the time. So I know there is a few updates coming in. So they're bringing out voice notes in the note top part. You know how you can do like what you're thinking. You can do voice notes in there. And to my knowledge, they are bringing out kind of like it's a thing on your stories where you can share recordings so that you could like share a recording from someone's message or whatever. But trend wise, I think Reels will still still pretty prominent. And I know that they're doing some cleanups of bots as well, but I don't know what's going to come. It depends what everyone engages with, and everyone goes through the seasons, right? Like 1 minute they're all into the booty videos, next minute they're all into something else. So it changes all the time. Like you could ask me today, and then you could ask me tomorrow, and it'll be a completely different answer.
The bots thing. I feel as if a lot of people are going to end up with less followers from all
Yeah,
the bots
yeah.
buying followers.
Yeah, like if you wake up in the morning, you've lost like 100 followers, it's because they've cleaned out inactive accounts.
Yeah.
Yeah, people panic. And I'm like, don't panic.
Yeah,
But
it's
I
just
feel like if you were to actually go through your followers and remove all the bots, your profile will perform a lot better.
mm.
Like it helps so much because if you look at it and your post goes out and it goes all to bot accounts and they don't engage, it doesn't go any further.
Yeah, and there's heaps of bots going on.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's not as popular anymore, but they're all just old. Like a question I ask people when they come to me is like, have you ever bought followers? Because it will tell me a very big telltale sign on how long the road is to grow. And I'm like, okay, well, how many did you buy? When did you buy it? And let me look at your analytics. And then I can, like, I'm pretty brutal on saying you need to start a new account if they need to start a new account because new accounts go really well.
Why, I know we're about to end this, but like, why is there so much fear of coaches wanting to start a new account?
They think their follower number is the trust thing. So they think because they've got no followers, people won't trust them. Some of my clients that get the most amount of lead gen have the lowest amount of followers. Like something I've never focused on in any of my businesses is growing followers, which is crazy considering the job I'm in. But I've never done it. And I think like Andy's only got like 7,000 followers, but shit, like we sell out every time we put something up and we might sit with like 150 clients on one-on-ones. Like, why would I push to get more followers? Like, it just makes no sense. Like, if you've got 20,000 followers and 19,000 of them are shit, get rid of your account. Like, start again, start from scratch. You'll grow so much faster, like, so much faster. And if it's like, if you're feeling really, really guilty about it and you're kind of like, shit, I don't want to lose my trust, just do 2 accounts. Do one that's business focused and start it new, and then do your personal as being that big one if that makes you feel better.
Yeah, love it. Awesome. Liv, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been fun. And I know a lot of people are going to be like mind blown about everything that we've spoken about.
Yeah, hopefully I simplified it. I try to simplify it as much as I can. That's what I do every single day. So yeah.
I reckon they have. And girls, if you want a little bit more information, make sure that you follow Liv on Instagram and check her page out and check her business as well. Girls, if you enjoyed today's podcast, please make sure that you screenshot, tag us, and let us know what you think. And then till next time, let's start giving more value, but being more direct and sharp about it, and less fucking stories, please.